learning what is too much for your system is really important. Because when we are learning NVC, and if our systems are overloaded, and we go back into our tenseness, it's impossible to be empathic when you are tense. We've all experienced that, where someone is using beautiful NVC words, but their body is contracted in historical pain, emotional pain. So people will feel the double message. And that's when NVC gets messy and it turns people off. You know what I mean?
Yes, so it's like creating the alignment of the body and the language can add so much more power to how we interact. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, people, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lifelong pursuit. You know, it's a self-awareness thing, which I love. I love that. I love bringing that to the NVC learners. How do you approach this as a lifelong practice, an art? And so I've been giving little pieces of that. I really love, experiential practices that people can take home and practice. This one is a way of exploring needs as a whole mind-body experience. And not only that, a way to bring those qualities we call needs, integrity, honesty, dignity, those things, to bring that into our listening empathic field. Okay, so as we become more integrous, more kind, we transmit that. So this is a practice for practicing that. Okay. And I'm going to put it we could spend all day teaching this and exploring it. It's expansive practice. It's simple and expansive. But for you and viewers, I'm just going to go through it once, and then they can practice it, and you can practice if you choose. And again, I'm always open to conversation, so people can write me, davidkweinstock@gmail.com, and I'll answer questions. Okay. It goes like this. It goes like this. 4 parts. It's called SURF. SURF. Shape, unify, resource, field. SURF. Shape. Head above heart, above belly. Vertical line. Thinking, feeling, intuiting, connecting to the earth. A deep breath. Make a sound. Go like this. Go. There you go. That relaxes your system a little bit. And again, I'm doing it quick. You can do that a bunch of times. I often say, soften your eyes, let your tongue rest on the floor of your mouth. The weight you're carrying on your shoulders, put it on the ground for now. You can come back to it later. Unclench your sphincter muscles, your sit bone. Feel your seat and your feet on the ground. That's the shape. Unify, SU, is a breath. And we just did it. We do it again. Remember, the more relaxed you are, the more aware you can be. The more relaxed your body is, the more empathic you can be. Now, R is for resource or need. What is one need you would love to cultivate more of in your life, Ivana? Just one.
I would like to cultivate peace. Okay,
let's work with that one. So shape is the shape, unify, breath. The whole practice line takes 10 seconds, but you can stretch it out. So this is a question to the body, and engage your imagination. And it's an empathic question to the body, meaning an empathy question is one where you don't know the answers, you just care when you ask because you would love to know. It's about connection too. So you ask your body this question, you ask your whole self, how would it feel right now just to have a little bit more peace? What would that feel like? And let your body show you what that might feel like. What would a little bit more peace feel like? And what do you notice going on there, Ivana, in you?
As I heard that, the energy went into my legs and feet, and then it was about, like, I feel a lot of tension here, so it was like about opening up this space. So it's that in the feet and the legs.
And that's just what you noticed. And that was about 5 seconds worth of observation. Imagine doing this every day for a month, for 5 minutes a day. What peace might teach you? And this begins a whole inner dialogue, which, again, we're not going to touch on today. But the body's a metaphor. Your shoulders, they're, can I make a guess for just a moment? Again, do you feel like you carry a lot of weight on your shoulders?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And, your heart is obviously, all these are, and just the way you spoke with this part of you, this part of you is giving you a lot of information. And I'm guessing maybe, it might lead first just listening. Don't go to strategies. And then, I could easily imagine a strategy might be, hey, I carry a lot on my shoulders. I need support. And I'd love to share this or something. And if I even ask your shoulders that, which might sound silly, but hey, shoulders, is this what you're trying? Is this part of what you're saying? What do your shoulders say? Yeah. And this is, empathy. This is empathy, by the way. Empathy comes to us in much more than words. And learning to listen to the subtle messages of our bodies puts us in touch with the subtle messages of others. Same practice. And not only that, it becomes more visible. You can see the histories that people carry.
And you can feel it, I guess.
And
you can sense it in your system also, yeah.
You become more skillful at listening. And this is about whole self communication. And you cannot lose your histories. And we can learn through it. And those things, those protection places, right? We're protecting precious, precious parts of ourselves. And for good reason. And the practice is not to judge the strategy, but learn to appreciate the intention of that younger you who put that in place. And then you practice it to become a part of you. I need to carry this. I need to carry this. Somewhere you learn that for good reason.
Yeah.
Learning to just appreciate the intention of that younger you, which was to make sure you're okay, probably, to make sure you're safe, to make sure you're loved, primary.
Yeah, and when I received that message, that like the appreciation for the protective part, I can notice myself being touched by that. So yeah.
And when you feel touched, what did that feel like right there?
That's somewhat like a little bit of more softness, I would say.
Kind of sweetness, tenderness.
Yeah. And I could feel also the kind of tears being ready, like the grieving there.
A little sweetness.
Yeah.
Morning in vibration, a little sweet sadness.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you're doing there is you're touching something that you have missed. And that's the sweetness. There's a part of you you've missed and that you are not in contact with. And that is sad. It's a part of you you love that you miss. That's gratitude. And there's a part of you that you love that you just connected with, and that's celebration. There are two sides of gratitude. And by feeling them the way you do, which was from over here, touching for me, by feeling them, you are honoring life. And when you honor life, for me to be in your presence when you are honoring life, it helps me get closer to life. So, oh, I didn't even get through the practice. That's only 3. S-U-R.
Oh my.
The rest?
It's wonderful. And this
All
is
right.
something that you came up with, David? This kind of acronym? Wow.
Yeah, well, I'm teaching you a key field, but I'm also teaching you an empathic field. They are the same to me. This is my commitment 20 years ago to develop a way to share this simply. I was doing this in my Aikido training for a lot more years. So that's it. It's like some things just take a long time to articulate, but it's simple. Here's the last part. Okay, ready? And by the way, there's much more to this practice because sometimes there's a resistance to peace. Oh, I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough, or the stories. And for those of the listeners who struggle with that, you just say, well, how would it be to just have 1 molecule more peace, just 1 molecule? And that usually people can tolerate, but that little is a lot. It's a lot. And then each day you a little more, but start small. Less is more in this work. So ask it briefly, shape, unify, resource. How would it feel to have a little more of that peace that you love? Just a little more. And then breathe into it. And you can imagine, peace filling you up. If that's hard, just care. And then very slowly imagine it's sort of bring attention. There's different ways to do this. You can imagine it kind of seeping out of your pores in all directions, or you can just bring your attention to the little space in front of you, to the side, behind, above, below, kind of this sphere, but make it a sphere, a bubble that you're in the middle of, okay? Can you imagine that?
Yes.
If you can't, that's okay. There's no wrongs to this work. It's always, no, I can't feel that. That's interesting.
Mm.
Can you imagine that space behind you too?
Yes.
Some people can't, especially those people who feel like I got to do it all myself. They're not used to feeling support back here. So, and bring that sense of peace into the bubble. Can you do that?
Yes.
And breathe into it and imagine that space is getting a little bit bigger in all directions. So you are sitting in the middle of it always, okay? Until it touches the monitor in front of you. So is the bubble touching the monitor?
Yeah.
Okay, now imagine that bubble in all directions. You have to equalize this field, okay? Imagine it getting bigger so that it opens and includes the monitor. Is it in there? Yeah. So now we're in it together. How does that feel? How does that change?
Yes, the perception is different. I'm wondering how to describe it, but I sense this kind of like opening. Yeah, I love this kind of spatial awareness. Yeah. And what was happening that first, in response, like my body, I could feel something in my stomach, like rumbling, and then that energy kind of distributed from there also into the space.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It's, one for just being willing and when we do this kind of work, first of all, it can be really scary for some people to go to the body because it's really direct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyone doing this kind of work, really just go with slow and with care and really respect who you're with and their choices above anything. Don't push. And always ask permission. Yeah, so there's that movement, and there's so much. That's the somatic part too, that opening, and when things start to move, and that warmth you were describing, that's like blood and life moving in places that, as we open a little more. And that field that you were just working, that's an empathic field. That's, so it's a really different way. I remember working with the two teachers way back when, and the instruction was, okay, so the third person, which was me, listen with empathy. And I'm going like, what is this empathy? How do you do this? And that's when this practice, that one emerged. And it was like, oh, and like, oh, because I had been intellectually trying to figure out empathy when it emanates from here. So going here first and aligning it and then opening from that place.
So would you say that as a mediator, I might use that capacity of the heart and include the parties in the space that I create into that field, and something can change there? Do you experience it like that, for example, when you're in that role?
Yeah, I watch what happens. It's just hard to do that because it's different than what most of us have learned, me included. And it's a practice, and there's more to it, but that's a great beginning one of that opening in the field. And this field is it's a boundary. It's not a wall. It's a choice maker. It's a choice maker. It's a shock absorber. So when someone comes, instead of getting shocked, you can receive them. And if you don't want to, it tells you, no, please stop. And you can articulate that. There's a lot of information when we listen, and more information than we think.
And I can imagine that when you are aware of that field, you can respond faster.
Right. And again, the more relaxed you are, the more aware you can be. And this field is also something that helps to keep you safe. Because again, it's a lot of information that we are learning with empathy. That's why we have to also do self-regulation, because sometimes it's too much and we don't even know it. So to be able to feel and feel what's going on in us, there's, it really puts us in touch with a lot of information we can utilize to keep us safe, and learning to listen to it and pay attention the way you paid attention to this part of you and this part of you today.
Yes.
That's part of the listening.
Yes. And I can imagine like how having that continuous practice of a dialogue, inner dialogue, how that can then increase the capacity to kind of listen to others.
It is.
Yeah. And I can also imagine,
please.
David, that I imagine like how you're being in the intentional communities over the years, how it gave you like such a great field of learning in terms of
Oh my
what you share
gosh, yeah.
here.
And I still have as many difficult relationships as anyone else. It's just learning to navigate them a little better over time. It's a lot. It's really a lot of, our world is so fragmented. Relationships are so fragmented. There's so much to reclaim, so much that we don't even know because we've lost that ancient ecosystem of human relationships too. And there's so much to reclaim. And this is really important work.
And it's great to know that it is reclaimable, that the seeds are there. It's just about like opening that up.
Yeah. I guess the last piece I might want to just bring in to this wonderful conversation, besides gratitude to be here with you and to get to know you a little bit more and a lot, just appreciate it, that those places we contract around, like our heart, for example, or our belly, or all different, everybody's different, but there's a lot of these, but for example, the heart, there is a time most likely when we protect it and learn to do it in certain ways, where it's not being honored out there or appreciated. So we learn in our own intelligence to keep it dear, keep it to ourselves. And as an adult, we can come up with a lot more strategies than as a kid. And there's an intelligence in us that said, keep that safe. So these things that feel like reactions, as we learn to empathically listen to them and the source and build that inner trust, what I find over and over and over in myself and everybody I work with is that as we slowly, can't force it, but slowly, skillfully become more vulnerable and in touch with these parts of ourselves, because when we're tight, it's hard to be in touch. So the more we open, the more we can be in touch and utilize these resources. And as we do that, these become our greatest gifts to ourselves, to our families, to each other. So reaction to resource and connection and healing.
I think that's a very, very beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, David, for sharing your wisdom and your practices and your knowledge. And I just want to add that you can learn, if you're watching this, you can learn about David's work at liminalsomatics.com.